What is going on? Happy Friday. Happy Friday, hobby heroes. Captain Poseidon, Nelson Cruz, Eric Brandenburg, how's it going? Captain Poseidon says, at with the 40k, you're still in the Book of Grudges. Uh-oh. But whatever did I do to have my name in the Book of Grudges? Eric Brandenburg says, what is Artel W? Yep, it's the model makers who produced this model here. Pretty good one. I quite like it. I've been enjoying it as of late. Figured I'd crack on a bit more here and work on these demons. As you guys can tell up here, these ones need some development, and unfortunately I dropped the bit. So I had to do some green stuff for repairs on the wings. You can kind of see some green there. Man, on the top of the Slanesh type demon's hair. It was kind of a bummer. And the top of the Iron Halo too. I think once paint is applied, no one will be the wiser, but man, does it always hurt when that happens. Sucks. Definitely sucks. And never feels good to drop a model. That being said, I've set myself up for success here. Actually, let me check my camera settings. Let me go back to normal. I think that's better. But yes, I've set myself up for success. Look, we have a clean palette. We're ready to rock. I think we'll start with some blues. Probably start with dark Prussian blue. I don't know if I want the kind of luster this provides on the Zinch Demon, but I'm thinking I want this on the underside of the cape. I think it might look really good, just to create a bit of contrast without adding too much of a, visual competition with the brighter elements, such as the demons on the base and all the glowing runes this guy's gonna have, which we might do today. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how we feel. Depends how other things go. But what is on everyone else's hobby desk? That's the true question. Share with me your hobby projects so that I may feed off of the hobby camaraderie. Actually, some of these features need a second coat of primer, so maybe I'll do that first. Eric Brandenburg says, this weekend, I am getting a Discord account and joining at with the 40k's Discord to plead with him to paint up Aethon Shan and ship it to me. Well, I wish you luck in that quest, because I don't typically do commissions. It's not something I'm usually doing. But if you want to join the Discord and share your work in progress pics of your Aethon Shan, I'd be more than happy to take a look at them. Do a little showcase on the stream, share with the community. I'm not opposed to that. You know, I'm actually going to just be a bit more liberal with the primer. Because when I dropped this part, you can see all the areas that scraped along the floor and was ruined. It might have been a bit shoddy before I dropped it, though. Truth be told, I did a kind of slap job with regards to the priming of this part. So we're just gonna do a second pass here. I don't believe there's a risk of the iron halo coming apart, despite how big it is. I'm pretty sure I glued it in there pretty well. I was debating on keeping it in subassembly the entire painting process, and then attaching it after the fact, but I wanted a mount. I want something to hold as I painted these parts, and I didn't have a mount ready for subassemblies, so here we are. Here we are. Let's hide. We must hide the green stuff so no one will be the wiser. It's just a little secret between me and you, chat. So we're gonna have to do some high saturation, high contrasting paint jobs on these demonic features up top to kind of balance out the ones on the bottom. And there's no floor connection point, so I don't really know where the brightest spots should be. I quite like how the Nurgle demon is reading, even though it's pretty rudimentary right now. Man, the lighting is not good. Let me see what I can do. Oh, welcome, Scratch Built Silver's Productions. Silver's Scratch Built Productions. Excuse the error. Is that better for lighting? Maybe. Whatever, you guys get the gist of it. I feel like I couldn't get brighter. I feel like we're at maximum brightness. The Pyrus is out with the 40k. You do commissions now? Geez, I missed a lot. I do not do commissions. I don't know who's telling you this. I've been asked to do commissions, which is very flattering, don't get me wrong. But it's not something I usually do. I've done, look, for people in my local play group, I've done little stuff here and there, a little favor, you know what I mean? Work something out. Help out a bud, that kind of thing, but public commissions is not something I've dabbled with. How's the cape? Okay, we'll put this excess on the cape. We must not waste the paint. Eric Brandenburg says everybody has a price. Look, if the price is right, Eric does have a point. And Ethan Shen is just such a model, dude. Dude, it's so good, that model. I tell you, if I was a Raven Guard guy, I would. It's tempting, okay? I'll tell you, it's tempting to have a little elite Phobos, a little thematic list, right? Like the thematic list builds. Throw in Ethan Shan. Dang, would that be cool. But I must remain strong. There's too many pile of shame projects. This guy, for one. Right? And there's also the Norn, the Gengar Norn Phantom. Gotta do that at some point. Really procrastinating on that one. Okay, while that dries, let's get some yellow, because I have to make this not Word Bearer's shoulder pad Legion badge look more like the Word Bearer's shoulder pad Legion badge. So I want to put the yellow or orange in the mouth and eyes. Autofocus is kind of struggling. I guess because the model is so large, it's not used to. Let me see what I can do here. Maybe if I raise this, we're doing it live, very professional, and tilt it, maybe that'll help. Will it stay? Oh, it did. Okay, yeah, so you can see it's not quite like the Word Bearer's Legion badge, so we gotta try to make it look as close as possible. I think Dirty Yellow from AK and, what is it, Wild Rider? Yeah, there it is. Eric Brandberg says, out with the 40K, what's your price and can you stream the painting process? I definitely can stream the painting process if I do a commission of 8th and Shan, Eric. But as for the price, I'm not going to get into that on the live. That's crazy. I also have to figure it out. From the cursory inquiries I've made around commission painting, it usually seems to be on the low end, cost of the model, and then we would have to work out whatever the shipping would be after that. Right? And I think that's just for painting. I need to do some research and figure it out. I would stream it and make it as worth my while as I can. But I'll once you get on the Discord, it'll be easier to DM. How about that? How about we leave it there? Because, yeah, 8th and Shan is just such a nice model. Truth be told, I wouldn't mind painting one of him. But I wouldn't want to get into like oh, here's my 15th 8th and Shan paint job, here we go. And then, like, I'm not even enjoying the hobby anymore. If you know, like, I want to avoid that. Eric Brainberg says, well, your time is worth the money too. Yes, that would be the... Sorry, the context I was speaking from was assuming that the model was paid and built, basically. I think that's how it works out. Again, I have to do research. I'm not a... Obviously, based on the way I'm answering this question, I'm not a commission painter, so we gotta figure it out. Should we do it? We gotta figure it out first. Okay, I'm gonna get a little bit of Wild Rider. Let's use the golden maple, I think. That's a good point. Might do some golds today on Lorgar. Because some of these features have to get broken up. Some of these... Oh, you know what? I'm going to take off his arms. Because I want to avoid disasters. The book is pretty solid. I don't care about that. But these... this is such a nice mace sculpt. You guys can't see it. Let me focus. Can I get it to focus? Come on, you. Focus. Yeah, it's a nice sculpt. And it'd be a shame if it was ruined. Basically, is my point. Harrison Wilkinson, welcome to the stream. Nice paint job, he says. Looks amazing. Ah, well, thank you very much. It's coming together bit by bit. Slowly but surely. Yeah, I want to make these, I don't know, these incense orbs. They're not orbs. Cylinders. These incense cylinders. Gold. Just to break up the accessories a little bit. I think that would benefit the overall scheme. I am a little concerned by making I'm concerned with the prospect of making all of these runes glowing green as per my other word bearers, because he's got a lot of them, and I don't know if it'll get too loud. It's a bit of a risk. A bit of a high risk, maybe for high reward. Only time will tell. Let's get some Prussian blue and put a bunch of this on the Zinschdiemen and underside of the cape. I mean, it's the not Zinschdiemen, technically. Technically, it's not Zinsch. It's not even Games Workshop or Warhammer specifically. It's just very suitable. Yeah, Yeah, so I would imagine we'd want the lower sections to be brighter than the upper sections. Kind of following in theme with the bottom guys, but when I look at the reference paint job, it's an excellent paint job from RTLW. Maybe I can show you guys. It'll make my work look like shit. But I'm okay with that. This paint job, this is kind of the guide I'm following. I'll try and get it as nice looking with regards to the gradients, the color hues here. So beautiful, man. Anyways, you can see how this inch demon's painted here. It's dark towards the bottom, so you don't have any extremely high value, like max 100% brightness spots anywhere in particular. I guess just towards the upper area it's just brighter. Maybe I should trust the example and just follow it. Yeah, because these guys are like spawning, so they got more brightness. These ones just appear to be chilling, so maybe there's just no balloon lighting type value change. Eric Brandenburg says, with the 40k, I believe the word you are looking for is censer for the metallic incense dispenser dangling from the chains. Yes, Eric, thank you. That is the exact word I'm looking for. The censer cylinders in this case. You see those orbs on Death Guard and Dark Angels often? On those two ranges, they come to mind for the sensor orbs. You know, the Death Guard ones probably smell really bad, and the Dark Angels ones probably smell like old church, if I had to guess. The Pyro says, I currently do not know, but with the 40k, how do you feel about 3.0? I currently hate the idea of wishing... Let me restart. I currently hate the idea and wished my one buddy wanted to move to 3.0 so they can do events. It's all pain. How do I feel about a 3.0? Like Horus Heresy 3.0? If that's the case, Pyro, I don't keep a real strong grasp of what's going on in the Horus Heresy side of the hobby. I usually tune into channels like Winters and my friend Maka from the Outer Circle to kind of gauge what's going on there. And then, but personally, I'm kind of leaning towards Maka's opinion on Horus Heresy 3.0. I mean, Mordian Glory seems to agree with that as well, for whatever it's worth. Based on our conversation that we all had together, everyone was pretty much on the same page. Broadly, I think it's lame. Horus Heresy 3.0 feels like change for the sake of change, as per GW trying to reinvent the wheel with their innovations so they can sell a new edition, rather than just make improvements to the existing design and create a nice game system that functions. And I asked Maka on the most recent Grimdark Therapy. I think it was part of the recorded call too, towards the end, where I asked him, are there these basically obvious changes to what was the status quo previously? And the example I asked was around war gear options in Horus Heresy 2.0, where the standard was Melta, as Maka confirmed, and now Melta's... no, I think he said it was last cannons before, and now it's Melta's. It's like, it feels very reminiscent of 8th to 9th, like, 8th edition 40k, it's all about Plasma, and then it became all about Melta 9th edition, and now it's back to... it's flip-flopped again back to, like, well, basically, last cannons. Well, I think it's a bit... It's not as broad as ninth edition's Melta meta, but on the whole, those high damage, reliable reroll tools seem to be the go-to for dealing with problems. I mean, depending on your faction, actually, if you're Space Marines, you just want volume of fire. Like, if you can just pump out loads of 3 damage with +1 to wound, like, you don't even care about a dedicated, proper anti-armor solution. But I'm digressing now. Captain Poseidon says, with the 40k, what's your favorite Warhammer character? That's an excellent question, Captain Poseidon. I need to think about that. Is it lame to say Eisenhorn? In Black Library, it might have to be like an Eisenhorn. But yeah, that's what comes to mind recently. There's a couple likable characters in the Dawn of Fire series, despite the mid status of the overall series. But on the tabletop, let's see. Who would my favorite on the tabletop? If we're going by rules, I think I like Kavan Shrike. I'm trying to think of the characters that I always find myself adding to thematic list builds or constantly including. I think Shrike's rules are just some of the best use of 40k 10th edition's design space as it relates to giving a unique named character a flex that feels unique. Eric Brandenburg says, as a Raven Guard guy, I have Shrike, but I do not use him. Oh, why is that, Eric? I adore that Shrike can just rapid ingress with a gang and make them all untargetable. And just sit there. Just sit there and stoke the fear. It's a beautiful thing. Talk about a maneuver that feels impactful. Right? Okay, so we're already just applying the Prussian blue. I feel like I'm going to need to add some black into here, which I always was of the mindset. Oh, I always had the mindset of doing that, but we'll have to see how it dries. Maybe it won't be so bad. Because I want to mix in a bit of orange towards this edge of the cape to suggest some OSL. I don't know how hard I'm going to go on the OSL side of things here. See, so it's still a dark blue. It's not competing too much with the overall color composition. I think it's making it's creating a more interesting backdrop for our character. That's how I think about the inside of capes. I try to choose a color that'll serve as a good backdrop. A good backdrop for your color scheme or your your armor, your heraldry, as it were. Geez, how am I gonna get in here? Oh, good thing I have this useful handle. Like, for real though, I don't think I could use my third-party handle because this guy is too heavy. He's too heavy. He's a big boy. And he's resin, right? So it's definitely a heftier material. Okay, we'll let that dry, and then I'll apply the rest onto this demon up here. I'm actually quite desperate not to add more paint. Just trying to stretch what I got on the palette. We'll see. We'll see if it's all in vain, if it's a fool's errand. Yeah, what other cool 40k characters do I like? I mean, even though I don't use him a lot, I do like Adrax Agaton. I think he's a good inclusion, because he's to me, it's important that the Salamanders have an avatar, so to speak, that represents the non-nice guy Salamander, the more angrier side. Just a bit more of the expected behavior of a prudent transhuman super soldier in a grimdark setting. Right? This is something Brayarth Ashmantle used to exemplify. But since he was put to Legends, we don't really have someone repping that kind of character. Because I find... Well, look, I guess it shows my bias, right? Because I will basically heavily bias anything that is counter to the education which memes provide for 40k. Right? Where salamanders are all sunshine and rainbows and nice guys, and they're so good they're stupid. Right? If you know what I mean by that. They're so wholesome. They're such good guys that those have terrible tactics, and I hate that. I hate that choice in characterization. I think it's terrible. Madman, welcome to the stream. Sorry, I was just in the zone. I wasn't ignoring you. I see your message above there. What guy are you painting? It looks like a word bearer. Yes, this is a counts as word bearer's Primarch. Well, it's an unofficial model. It's not a GW model. It's a model from Martel W, which I will use as my word bearer's Primarch. I even made a data sheet, guys, and I posted it on the channel under the community or posts tab. I can't remember. YouTube keeps changing how those are framed or labeled. But if you want to check out the rules, I'm thinking of running with this guy for a house rule narrative game. You can check it out and let me know in live. I can get some live feedback. How about that? Madman, that's cool. Sanguinius is the best Primarch in my opinion, but that could just be me. No, it's a lot of other Primarchs tend to agree with you that Sanguinius is the best of us. That's kind of the shared sentiment around most of them. And they're probably correct. I would like to believe they are correct. They all have their different strengths and weaknesses, obviously. But because Sanguinius was the tragic origin story, in a sense, that sets off the main timeline, the fall of the Imperium, right? The stagnation that is 40k. You know that. I'm thinking of that very famous old artwork. Horus and the Emperor on the vengeful spirit of Sanguinius laid low. I think it's important to characterize Sanguinius as the best of us for those reasons. Okay, so for the rest of the blues, I'm thinking of blending between these two. We'll see. This was like, you ever buy a paint, just trying to experiment and seeing if it's the one you want, and then you never use it again because it turns out this doesn't suffice your current needs at the time. That's what this is. So I'm kind of looking forward to hopefully having a use for it here. Captain Poseidon says Magnus did nothing wrong. Yes, Captain Poseidon, you are correct. All Magnus had to do was nothing, and he did that wrong. That's a fact. I hope that helps. He had one job. Look, Magnus did nothing wrong is a great meme, but again, I think it misinforms and facilitates the acceptance of poor writing. Just my 2 cents. Just my 2 cents. Madman says, Sanguinius' death, the worst part of it, is the Chaos Gods ripped his soul to shreds to prevent any form of resurrection. Interesting, Madman. Interesting lore tidbit there. Is that why the Sanguinor is the way he is? Is that why Mephiston is such a weirdo? Okay, so we're going to try and keep the tail, the ends, dark. Oh, yeah, you guys can't see what I'm... yeah, I'm painting the map up. Yeah, see? So I'm trying to keep the tails, of the trails of these wisps. I don't know what to call them. His ethereal form. This Birdman's ethereal form. I'm trying to keep the ends dark and build up the brighter values towards his more corporeal form. Yes, very technical language. I mean, it's a nice little model up here. It could be a unit on its own, really. Well, Herald of Tzeentch or something, right? Captain Poseidon says the worst Primarch is Russ. Maybe. Certainly from a writing point of view. Is it intentional? I don't know. I don't know. They don't frame it like it's intentional. Right? Like, is there a moment in the Horus Heresy where Russ's actions, like his feet get held to the fire by another Primarch or another character of authority, that really impresses upon him the poor decision-making and the consequences it has yielded? Because if that happens, then I feel like, oh, okay, so he's making these poor actions, and it's intentional by the writers, and they're writing it so that we can have this moment where, you know, Russ has to confront with his actions and grow from there. But if that doesn't happen, I don't know if it feels like it's intentional. It feels kind of like he's allowed to just act without consequence. Or without yeah, he doesn't feel the ramifications of. He gets like that Dunning-Kruger situation, you know? He's acting, he's like, oh, all my ideas are the best ideas because I never hear any bad feedback. Well, that's not quite what Dunning-Kruger means, but I think you guys understand what I'm trying to lay out here. This is definitely going to have to be kind of a gestural paint job, at least for now. I would also like to begin building up similar values on the Slanesh Demon, just to get a semblance of how the overall Iron Halo feature is reading, because it's going to require both of them, and I think I want to incorporate both colors into the Iron Halo, I think. It's a tricky design feature, that's for sure. Russ is the worst because he's a goddamn hypocrite? Yeah, probably. Probably. That and other terrible choices. Here's a question for you guys. What good came from Russ attacking Horus on the Vengeful Spirit, as opposed to defending Terra with the rest of his bros? That's probably the most glaring poor choice he makes in the Horus Heresy. I mean, there's that and the blind following of orders sent by evil Horus to apprehend Magnus. That's also terrible. Okay, so to get that armor color in, I'll use the usual mix of old Mechrite Red. I believe I mixed this with a bit of black and maybe a little bit of Cadian flesh tone, if need be. Let's see if I can get away with it. We'll see. But there is a touch of armor visible in the Iron Halo stem here. And I think on the back side as well. And then I noticed a few errors as well. Just, you know, trim, a bit of tabard color on the leg. I don't know if you guys can see it. Touch up that. Any other spots? There probably is a few more, but I forget. You gotta do something with that parchment too. It's looking so... It looks like the base. Which is bad. Can't have that. You gotta make it pale. Eric Brandenburg says, out with the 40k, I feel like the Slaneshi demon should be humping that model's leg. They could have gone that route, and thankfully they didn't. I think this is much more tasteful. I do like how the Khorne demon is reaching for the weapon. It looks very picturesque. And it creates a nice silhouette, right, from this angle in particular. Really nice. On this side, we have the Nurgle demon reaching up for that sensor orb, or sensor cylinder. Kamikaze Senpai, welcome to the stream. Kamikaze Senpai says, I bought some of those brushes out with the 40k. Can't wait to use them. Awesome, Kamikaze Senpai. Very much appreciated. It helps the channel. I get a small kickback from that, so it's a cool way to support the channel and save money on hobby supplies. Feels to me like a win-win. Okay, so to begin developing the colors on the Slanesh Demon, we're going to start with well, I'll use my Slanesh Demon colors. I'm going to play with a blend of these two. Screamer Pink, Pink Horror, and maybe, if we get crazy, we'll try and incorporate this. This was a paint I bought on a whim, and I haven't really had much use for it. So we'll see. Maybe I'm not using it correctly. If you guys know of some sort of trick or tip that you're supposed to use with the Vallejo fluorescent paints, let me know. Kamikaze Senpai, is this a 3D print? No, it is not. It is a resin cast from Artel W, which they were kind enough to send me this. Full disclosure. And so I'm painting it slowly but surely. It's an awesome model, and look. It's nice to have a Primarch model I can put on the table for a Space Marine army I have, which is cool. Definitely feels cool. I want to organize a narrative battle against my buddies Ultramarines. Just to play some what-if wish fulfillment, you know? Just, you know, like, it's our tables, we do what we want. I think that's the beauty of tabletop wargaming, right? The rules aren't locked in by coding. We have that creative freedom. It's something GW kind of wants us to forget about. Oh, shit. Damn, guys. Another one. Look at this. Solid. Nearly. Oh, my God. These paint pots, man, I tell you. Like, it's mud. It's usable still, but not for much longer. That's a shame. It's a nice paint. I mean, you can do the thing and clean the paint pot, but it's such a messy process. I mean, you can clean the lid, right? You do the thing. Hopefully I don't make a mess. Right? And then you do this. See, this is what GW doesn't want you to know. This is how you take care of your paint pots. Look at all this wasted paint. And then, not to mention all the wasted shit in here. God damn it. Bummer. That's like an effing shot. It's too bad I didn't catch that sooner. I might have been able to save that paint pot. It might have been salvageable. I just haven't painted anything magenta like this in a while. You know what, maybe the Iron Halo should be the bright feature for these two. Like how the ground is the bright feature for the Nurgle and Khorne guys. Maybe there's something to that. Fat Man's Kitchen. Good evening to you as well. Madman says, I want the 40k. What is your most underrated faction, in your opinion? Also a good question. Most underrated. I mean, in a competitive sense, I feel like typically, based on how GW is trying to balance their competitive wargaming system, I think most things are at fairly good parity, except for the Chaos Knights and Death Guard release as of late. As far as I understand it, has blown that a little bit, kind of skewed things, skewed that competitive balance. Underrated? I'm trying to think, like, what do I not see enough of? I would have said, like, a pure demons list. We had that a little bit in 10th edition, which is something I do like. We did see that for a time. Because those Grotmist detachments for the four gods were nice. It'd be nice to have those in a codex. Don't get me wrong. But with regards to at this point, it's probably Admech. See, Admech and Votan are both kind of like borked from a design point of view, because GW has decided to characterize them as normie quality factions, like normie skill, when they should be elite skill. They should be a quality army, right? They should be a 3+ army. And I would argue that Sisters of Battle should be a 4+. They should be a normie skill army. As should Tempesta Scions, because they're not transhuman super soldiers. And they're not as heavily augmented as the Admech or Votan for that skill, right? But on the flip side, I think Sisters of Battle's army rules should be compensating for that with, like, really busted, creatively busted, not match play broken busted, really incredible miracles. Like hear me out. The concept of a miracle on the battlefield should be such a big deal, right? It should just, like every time that a miracle happens on the tabletop, it should be a moment where both players look at each other and say, this is cool as shit. This is amazing. You just did what? But instead, it's just a dice swap. Like, it's so creatively shallow. Yeah, I think they have, like, Sisters of Battle is another one that's just totally missed the mark in how the rules should be characterizing them. Yeah, I guess to answer your question, Madman, I would say Admech is probably the most underdog right now. But in my heart of hearts, thematically, what I want to see, I think Kroot is the most underdog. Honestly, I want to see Kroot should basically be treated as its own sub-faction of Tau, and Tau should be its own alliance, I think. Like if I had my different timeline here, is what we're talking about. But look at what the Kroot have available to them. They have, in essence, I feel like the Kroot had more of a range than Votan did before this new reveal. I might be wrong on that. But they might have. Someone would have to check. That amuses me greatly if that's the case. I could have made a video on that. Shit. That's too bad. That's too bad. I feel like I might have missed a good opportunity for a video. Madman says, if you had to pick one Chaos God to be devoted to, what would it be? Jeez. Look, there's no good answer. You're basically picking your advice, and I think they're all bad. Because I do have a Slaanesh Demon's army, I think that is what I would choose, but there's no winning answer, I don't think. No matter what you're picked, no matter what you pick, you're damned. Yep, that's 40k chaos for you. I mean, this idea that there's no good guys in 40k, that's another meme that I kind of like push back on, because I definitely do think there are good guys. There are those who fight for good. It's just the universe and environment is so bad, they have to do bad things as well, right? Especially on the whole, right? No faction in a galaxy-wide, spanning setting is gonna be wholly good. Especially not if it's a grimdark universe. But there's a reason why Chaos are referred to as slaves to darkness and lost and damned, right? There's a reason. It's because Chaos is bad. And being opposed to Chaos is good. If so facto, there are good guys in 40k. Consider that your proof. Kroot look less like something from 40k and more like Ben 10 aliens. Oh, really? Yeah, I don't, I don't hate. I really like the crude aesthetic, and I was close to going all in on a nonsense army, just to have an army that looks awesome and just dies every time. Just the real, as underdog as you can get, really, right? A crude army. But there's something wholesome about it, just like with Genestealer cults. Excuse me, Genestealer cults or guardsmen when Imperial Guard when they're not trying to be tryhards. There's also something wholesome there, right? Your humble guardsmen, that idea. When guardsmen are just Rogaldor and Tank Commander spam, it's less humble, obviously. It becomes it becomes kind of rude. Madman says, I'm thinking Nurgle, to be honest, because he cures you of all your problems and an immortality factor, kind of, with the plague that now gives you power and you see nothing but bliss. Look, I think they all have that. I think no matter which Chaos God you take, you're probably going to suffer for a bit until you end up liking it. That's probably how they all go. Because I'm pretty sure it was the Dark Imperium series where you get a POV look at what it feels like to turn into a Plague Bearer or a Poxwalker. And it's not pretty. Seems like a bad time. I wouldn't want that. Like, everyone's been sick, so you kind of can imagine. Just dial that up to like 1 million, and then you get an idea of what that book describes. All right, let's try this paint pot and see if it's as bad. It's not looking good. Oh no! Oh, it's like such a shame. I don't know if there's a way to rescue this. What do you think, chat? Do you think if I microwave these paint pots, they'll come back to life? Just heat it up a bit. You can get some out of there, but it's not long for this world. It's quite a piss off, honestly. Stupid GW and their stupid paint pots. Oh my god. I have to fight with this. Crazy. Look at this shit. Unbelievable. Well, there. Another paint pot in palliative care. Just hanging on. Just basically more solid than liquid. And now I have to like check my fingers so I don't dab the model I'm working on. I think we're okay though. Fat Madman says add water. I just feel like it's so solid. Maybe a flow improver? I want to believe there's some chemical reaction that can take place that can save those paint pots. Is that too naive? Well, at least by putting some color on this guy, it's certainly at least tabletop minimum, you know? It's at least battle ready by having all the elements painted. So there's some solace to be had in at least achieving that. How do you guys feel about that? I feel like it's a pretty common thing to just, you know, get your model tabletop, you know, battle ready. Get some enjoyment, some feel good, a little bit of a reward. It's not offensive to play as an unpainted model or just a primed model. Then you can circle back and finish it off. The trick is, though, circling back. Because a lot of people get trapped in the, oh, battle ready? I guess I'll stop here. But really, they want to continue, but they never do. Okay, I'm going to try mixing in some of that game color blue I was talking about earlier. I'm going to mix that over here with our purple. Let's see if we can make a blend. I mean, I don't hate this. The purple pink is actually a good color combo to have on such a feature as opposed to like a red green. So this should work. Look at this guy and his demon friends. See, Lorgar was betrayed by his feelings were hurt from his actual brothers, so he had to go find his own friends. And then he found the Chaos Gods, so it kind of worked out. Kind of worked out for him. What are you guys talking about? Women and adolescent females. Females feels like you're describing animals. Also, no issue with women in the hobby either way. Oh, okay. I see. I see. This sort of topic has emerged. Yeah, obviously. Obviously, guys. Duh. Is this because I mentioned Sisters of Battle? Look, it's not bad to be a 4+ skill faction. Especially if you're balanced out with busted miracles. I'm telling you. It's a rules design. It's a design space that I think can really shine. Right? And then if your skill is mid, you know, not transhuman or not equivalent to a transhuman super soldier, right? Not equivalent to heavily augmented, more machine than man AdMech. Or Eldar. Right, Sisters of Battle are the same skill as Eldar? That's crazy. Alright, just think about that. That's a crazy paradigm to find them in, right? But if they are of mediocre skill, then those miracles can have much more impact. Because right now, I feel like you're a 3+ faction with dice swapping. It's kind of lame. Kind of lame if you ask me. And that's not to say I think Miracle Dice should be, or Sisters of Battle's Miracles should be Miracle Dice swapping. That's terrible. It's like creatively bankrupt. That can be like one of your miracle options on your miracle table or whatever. Captain Poseidon says, I wish Omegon's twin was here. Oh, look at making friends. Look at this. Pyro says, I'm coming back with pizza. What the fuck did I come back to? Hold up, Pyro. Tell me about this pizza. Let me live vicariously through you. Pizza. Dude, pizza's delicious. It is a good time. Okay, I'm going to try and get some more. I'm going to scoop out more of this pink paste. It's no longer paint. Jeez, look at this. So I'm annoyed with GW for their stupid paint pot design. But I'm also a little annoyed with myself for letting it happen. I feel like I could have prevented it. I'm going to mix a bit of white. And I'm going to try and bump the brightness towards the upper side here. So just blocking in where the blends will kind of start and end. And I'm looking at that reference from earlier. Oh yeah, this stream is not safe for work. I just remembered this lady's boobs are out. So you've been warned. Avert your eyes if you are not of age. Go figure. The Slanesh demon has her boobs out. I think we want to blend on these these hip plates, I guess. I don't know what to call those. And maybe we want this a bit further on this side. Black and green olives with pepperoni. I can work with that. Oh, yeah. Pyro says, still angry on the change on AdMech to BS4 Plus in the beginning of the edition. I don't know if they still are. I really just refuse to use them because usually you can't think straight. Yes! Totally agree. Totally agree with you, Pyro. It's stupid. What a dumb idea. And then they became memed by the community as like the most stupidly expensive faction to play. Because now you have to have more of them because they're low quality. This is such a dumb idea. Like, to take a faction that is obviously high value, like they're all about rare war gear, rare tools. They're not just, you don't just birth them. You have to go through a painstaking process of augmentation on, as far as I can tell, every single unit or every single model. Yeah, what a dumb idea to make them a 4+ skill faction. A mediocre skill faction. So dumb. Like, you can have Sisters of Battle be the other, you know, the female equivalent to Space Marines and not have them be 4+ skill. Or, sorry, not have them be 3+ skill. Like I said it earlier, I think that's the best way to frame it. Sisters of Battle are the same level of skill as an Eldar. It's insane. It's so out of touch. There's no way. There's no way you just train that hard, right? If I just train, guys, if I just train hard enough. Oh my god, it's so stupid. Terrible. Flame Lord, welcome to the stream. We're hanging, we're chilling. I'm hobbying on a, I guess technically it's not a demon Primarch, but a Primarch with demons. So maybe a demon Primarch. Fatman's Kitchen says, y'all reading into this too much. AdMech needs to be more quirky. More robots and weird mechanics. I mean, I agree with that, Fatman's Kitchen. You want quirky. It should be esoteric, right? I think that should be like, if there was a word cloud for AdMech, that'd be a big one. Pyro says, so you mean girls and women in a sentence together? Won't the person reading understand it's about teen and adult women? I feel like I am jumping into a conversation I do not have the context for. Which is fine. I quite like that these streams have reached a level where people can chat amongst themselves. It's pretty cool. Actually, you know what? Let's do something about the underneath the cape. I will grab the game color black. Where is it? Always in the last place you look. Pyro says, I'll be honest, I think GW needs to add a 10-man 5+, a 10-man 5+ shooting and melee servitor horde unit that has objective control, meaning our Skitarii can go back to being semi-elite. Well, that would... yeah, it would open up that design space if they have some sort of weird obligation that they must have a low quality horde type unit for AdMech. Yeah, you just need some sort of like the equivalent of like it's just brainless servitors, right? Being told to go do this objective for the Omnissiah, right? You have no free will anymore, right? Your classic servitor. Like the equivalent of, what would you say? Conscripts, but for servitors. Just the criminals, right? Is that what acroflagellants are, essentially? I wonder, Pyro. I wonder. Actually, I don't like how pale that pink is looking for that demon. So I'm going to go over it with the fluorescent pink later. I think that might be an experiment that would be worth trying out. Yeah, it's a little hard to paint the underside of this cape and make it visible to you guys. Just because we got this big chonker of a base in the way. It's nothing fancy, it's kind of a crude blend, honestly, which I think is serviceable for the underside of a cape. It's not exactly in the spotlight. And I'm just going to blend it back in. Kind of doing a bit of wet blending with the Prussian blue. So I think on some of these folds, not folds, where the cape bends and catch the light, I think that's like prime real estate to add some orange. I don't know if it'll work, but I feel like it might sell the OSL effect of this demon a little bit. Might be a nice little feature, right? So when you're looking at it from the front view, you get a little bit of light catching on the back here. And probably on this one as well. Not much, because it is fairly far away. And I don't want to be in a position where I feel like I have to overblow the OSL on his leg. In fact, I'd like to keep it to a minimum. Pyro says, nah, at 40k. The acro hit on a 3+ or a 4+, too high for a dumb half-brain servant human. Ah, okay, right. So maybe you need an acro flagellant type of unit. Like a scrambler type, right? A unit that runs around, scrambles onto objectives, slaps in melee very poorly. Maybe I was thinking of acro flagellants with regards to taking low-quality hive scum and turning them into useful servitors. Useful entities for the Omnissiah in this case. Fat Man's Kitchen says, just poured half the Horse Heresy kits into plastic for 40k and problem solved. Well, hold on. Hold on a second there, Fat Man's Kitchen. You can't just do that. That would be crazy. Like, you'd have to be a real maverick, a real industry shaker to do something like that. Real talk, though, it's a good idea. It's only what all AdMech players want. To have more access to their Dark Age tech. Like, it just... Not even Dark Age. It's just... their tech from 10,000 years ago. Fat Man's Kitchen says crazy. I was crazy once. Okay, let's jam in here a little bit with this turquoise color. Try and bring this Zinchi boy up to a similar parity, just blocking in the brighter spots. No blend in right now. Will it blend? Eventually. Usually nothing. I checked Warhammer Community to see if there's anything interesting to talk about. Like, if it's really interesting, I would always debate even doing a spur-of-the-moment video, but... So I did that usual check, and it's like, nothing. It's like, all they're doing this week is talking about the Saturday box set. It's very, very lame. And I wonder if that speaks to the sales struggles they're having with it. I wonder. Look at this guy's back. He's ripped. Damn, Zinch. Do you even lift? Because this is Zinch Demon. If he lifts. Oh, his armor has trim. I don't know if you guys can see that. That's, kind of crazy. Alan was close. Rip. Ah, yes. Legend. Alan Bly, I imagine. Yeah, that's the way to approach your game system, I think. I think it shows the Horse Heresy is like a... You could probably make a case study on that. It's like designing a game for the desire to make a good game system versus designing a game so that it has inbuilt failure points so you can make A new iteration in 3 years. Oh man, these feathers though. Definitely. Oh, you guys can't see shit. There we go. Eric Brandenburg says one of my local game stores just shifted to a mostly CCG business model. Now I have to drive a half hour further to play 40K. CCG. I'll need a explanation on that term. TCG is a trading card game. CCG is something else? Something similar? I passionately hate what the pandemic did to the hobby. Francois, welcome to the stream. Horus Heresy 3.0, when the family forces you to play board games with your retarded cousin. Looks that way. Looks to be that way. I haven't really done a look into the system. I just listening to people whose opinions I trust. It seems to be the case. Erica says collectible card games. Isn't that the same as trading card games? Yeah, trading card games are just vastly better for game stores. They take up less space. They're easier to get into. There's less of a barrier because there's no hobby component. So I get it. And if GW isn't making it easier, right? If they're taking away the reward for all that effort, then naturally you're going to have a harder time getting people to opt in. So why would I do all this effort if I, can't make the guys the way I want them to be with war gear and that sort of thing? Pyra says traditional card game. Man of culture. Come on, camera, focus. Doesn't want to focus. I blame Zinch. I don't know why I am picking out the feathers this way. I don't know if I'm going to even paint them in this style. I just feel compelled. Because TCG is a term Americans made. Is that really? Card sales for game stores are like cigarette sales for gas station. Yeah, that's probably pretty close. God. It's pretty funny. More than I'd like to admit. Okay, let's just blend this a bit softer, because I kind of over blew it a bit. Yeah, that pink is just so pale. It doesn't work, right? Saturation is weak. You know what? We can probably use this. I probably should have started with this instead of mixing the white. Yeah, that was stupid. That was stupid. Okay, let's try this magenta. Yeah, I think already I'm feeling more confident about it. So I do think I can probably put some white into certain areas, but certain areas with the Leo magenta, because it seems to be a stronger base. Actually, it most certainly is a more saturated base color compared to the pink horror. But I need more of that screamer pink. See if it's... Might as well get some use out of it while I still have it. Partially hanging on there. Now you want steamed crab. Yeah, seafood's a good time. I concur. Okay, just mixing in some black with the screamer pink to try and get our dark color. It's actually very close to the armor color, which is not ideal. It's probably okay. It's manageable, I think. Let's try to block in the anatomy a little bit here. Even though it's a fat brush, you can still block in the general areas where light would catch. Ah, yes, Francois. Eric is correct. It's an Artel W model. It is called, I believe, Suvarnael, spelt weirdly. Probably spelled as it sounds, but yeah, it's a cool backpack topper. It's quite the Iron Halo, or I guess the Chaos Star. Well, Yeah, more of an Iron Halo, really. It complements the base features fairly well. I really like it. I really like how they did it. I wonder if I can dilute this orange from earlier and dabble with this cape a little bit. See what we can do here. It's a bit too watery. Right, like the general area I'd be looking for is here and probably here, just to put a bit of orange or yellow. And look, if this experiment goes terrible, the Prussian blue covers up. Paint underneath it fairly well. I'm going to try and blend this into the Prussian blue first. It's a bit of an experiment. We're doing it live. We're figuring it out, right? Working with our pigments, trying to see what the limitations are. I believe it is called the creative process. Yeah, we'll let that sit for a bit. We'll let it sit for a bit. Let's have a gang of purple on the palette, or magenta. That is something I find with the dropper bottles, is that I do usually, could be just skill issue, but I do find I usually let out more than I need, which is not an issue with paint pots. Is the same amount of paint wasted? I don't know. I probably could get a smaller brush for this. Yeah, we'll get some of the white scar going. I'm gonna mix it with the magenta and see if I can begin creating some brighter values. Yeah, I think the hair coming out of this forehead crest feature and these horns is a good starting point for some higher values for our blends. And then, like, what am I looking at here? A face mask. Did you read Horus Heresy 3? GW is trying to do away with the creative process. Yep, it's been quite the topic of discussion for, I think, the last few Grimdark therapies we've done. So yeah, it's I think the Horus Heresy community gets a bit of. They do have my. I'm envious. I'm envious that they had the spine to stand up to it. But in fairness, GW did it slower for 40k. Right, the 40k community kind of rolled over. The tournament shills are kind of. I feel if you're someone who's invested in the tournament standard, the tournament paradigm of playing what is official, because official events mean your tournament environments can persist, then you're more likely to yield to changes from top-down changes. But in the Horus Heresy's case, they did it kind of quickly. It feels quicker. Definitely feels quicker. But I also think there's a different mindset. I think a lot of players who were annoyed with 40k went to Horus Heresy for that reason, and then seeing that happen over in Horus Heresy is very annoying. So then GW did the damage control thing and had the PDF ready, claiming it was it was ready. It was the plan all along. I don't think so. Press X'd out. Maybe want a little bit of orange on this side. Not as much. I don't know if I like it. I don't know if I like how that looks. You know, I think the bottom should have more pink. The top spike can have more purple. Then it's perfectly balanced, right? I mean, on the house rule side of things for this guy, I quite like the creative approach I took with his Primarch ability. Right? I feel like most Primarch abilities are kind of, not to toot my own horn, but I feel like most of them are kind of boring. Kind of pick an aura, and usually only one of them is good. Whereas in the approach I used for this guy, it's not an aura. It's a board-wide range, but you have to pick one unit within 6 inches of a demon unit. So yeah, you can affect less units with your Primarch ability, but you're able to kind of play demonic telephone and, you know, use a demon unit to inform another unit to, you know, relay those perks. I think it's more interesting. I think that's something 40k needs more broadly. I don't think you need you don't need every unit to have an ability for the sake of them having some value they bring to the table. But what you want is the units which have abilities to interact in interesting ways. I think you get a little bit of that in 10th edition, but not nearly enough. In my opinion. Gotta blend in a bit more black to that screamer pink. You know, it should be a very rich blend. Eric Brandenburg says, out with a 40k, do you think they should make Chaos Astartes possessed, able to be built in line with weapons representing the 4 Chaos Gods, rather than hideous mutations? Absolutely. I would give possessed the Demon Prince approach, man. Pick a mark, and they gain a affect, right? I think that's the thematic way to characterize them. That's something you actually... that's a criticism I've had of the Chaos Space Marines Codex for the last few editions. If there's not enough of a reward, there's no reward. There's no reward for mono-marking your army. Like, if you take the trouble to make a 2,000 point army of your dudes and pick a Chaos God, let's say you mark them all to Nurgle, that should mean something, right? That is like... in a metatextual sense, you're taking the effort to dedicate something to Nurgle, right? In effect, right? That's what you're doing with the rules. And on the tabletop, that should be reflected, right? And that doesn't cost GW like sprues or models or... there's no limit. It's just a design choice they keep failing to make. Yeah, that's a grievance I have with Chaos Space Marines. Definitely 10th and 9th edition. Yeah, I think even in 8th edition, there was nothing for mono-marking your whole army. But the lack of benefits wasn't as severe. I don't know. What do you think about that? I think that's a strong position. I think... yeah. I think that's, like, beautiful... that is a beautiful example of thematic rules which reward the hobby. Right? Building a whole army just for one Chaos God. And you should get some dope benefit on the tabletop. Because, you know, competitively speaking, you're locking yourself out from those other mechanics, right? There's probably enhancements and stratagems and whatever else that you don't get to use now because, oh, I've chosen not to mix mark all my shit. So it's like yeah, there should be some benefit to compensate for that, for your efforts. I think it's totally reasonable and totally based. Maybe that's something I'll suggest to North for our Exile edition, or I guess it's technically his Exile edition, but I'm collabing with him on it. Though I don't know if he's planning to do faction rules. I think he's planning to do just the core rule set, and then based on interest, maybe take it from there. But yeah, that's what you want. You want rules which reward the hobby efforts of those who invest their passion, right? Like the looted wagon. Oh, or just orc looted vehicles. That's just peak, man. Just peak. Just encourage your orc players to buy kits from different factions. It doesn't get more wholesome, I don't think. Ugh, I actually don't like this blend that I'm doing here. It's a bit poor. Francois says /market gets you 6 titties. If you want to do that, you can, but really, if you're mono-marked, yeah, it should give you functional rules on the tabletop, right? Like if you have an army rule that affects all your units in Chaos Space Marines, that army rule should stipulate if you're marked all Slanesh, you also get this, and then etc. The list goes on for each Chaos God. And if you're mixed mark, you don't get anything special because you're getting the benefits of all the marks on the units that probably make the most sense, right? The ones who have, you know, more movement probably are marked. The ones who want more movement are probably marked Slanesh, that kind of thing. And if you give that up because you just want to create something epic for Tzeentch, let's say, yeah, you should get some awesome reward. Right. I wonder if GW moved away from that because they only want Tzeentch Marines to be Thousand Sons. Which is lame. Lame as fuck if that's the case. It's a big galaxy. That's all I'm saying. That's a pretty nice blend there on his butt. Oh, you guys can't even see it. Yeah, right there. I think it turned out rather well. Something very satisfying about laying down paint and getting that blend just right. I suppose that's enough development on this feature. It's probably close to parity with the guys at the bottom. I could move on to, I guess, edge highlighting. I am a little hesitant to do the glowing runes. I feel like it could break. I feel like it could break things. Eric Brandenburg says, out with the 40k, how pissed would the Thousand Sons be if they found Heretic Astartes dedicated to Tzeentch? By getting a not as awful deal. I don't know if it's in the Thousand Sons character to get pissed. What do you think? Do you think they would just pity them? Like they don't know what's about to come? That kind of attitude? I could imagine that more so. Right? Fools! That kind of idea. Let's look at them with, like, naivete. Yeah, where are all the renegades following Tzeentch that are not Sons of Magnus? Yeah. GW, I think, does not want us to think about it. That's my new headcanon. No, you know what? It's not even that. They're just too dumb. I just don't think they realize it. Or they're too lazy with their rules. Because they have the ability to mark your army's units in your army's in one of the detachments. It's just poor. It's just poor for the reason I said earlier. There's no benefit for mono marking. Getting some nice value changes here, though. That's kind of cool. I feel like I'm slowly understanding. I feel like a skill precipice is... I'm on the threshold of understanding something here. Okay, we gotta do the same with the blue. Let's get some white. It's probably for the best. I do have a bunch of this turquoise on the palette. It's best not to waste it. Not the most exciting, but... you'll have to bear with it, guys. Well, you know, I would like to imagine you guys have got your own stuff going on. We're just out here, grinding that hobby life. Francois has nothing after 2016 as canon. Yeah, that's a line in the sand you can draw. I'm amenable to some things after 8th edition. I don't think the Great Rift is a bad idea. I just think the execution is terrible. Just wasted, right? The status quo after the Great Rift should have been Abaddon's victory. It should have been a creation of the galaxy, which is half ruled by chaos. Instead, you have... We're told that it's bad on the other side of the rift, but it doesn't really feel any different. It's lame. It's super lame, right? And in the Chaos Space Marines Codex, post 8th edition, post the Great Rift, it should have been this huge sea change of, you know, this sector of the galaxy is all these little fiefdoms of all these renegade warlords, right? You'd have an empire, a whole sector ruled just by the Iron Warriors, you know, that kind of thing. It should have been a big victorious boon for Chaos, a real narrative reward for those guys who've been along the ride thus far. That would have been awesome. Well, I think that is the biggest wasted opportunity of the Great Rift. I don't know. What do you guys think about that? Jeez, man, this is a weak blend, this spot. I wonder if I can blend right to turquoise from the Prussian blue. Does that look better? Maybe. The turquoise does have higher saturation, so... Eric Brandenburg says, agreed, loyalists fighting to the death against the tide of chaos, going renegade and falling to heresy, or just trying to evacuate. Yeah, like, what's different post the Great Rift, really? What factions are poised in a different position that doesn't feel like the same status quo? I don't know if I'm drawing a blank, but I struggle to find one. Right? I think at best you can say the Imperium has the Indomitus Crusade going on because things are so bad. But if Chaos or the Xenos factions haven't gained anything, right? Oh, sorry, I have to change the soundtrack because the words are distracting me, and I don't think YouTube likes it. Yeah, so if Chaos didn't gain anything from the Great Rift, or, you know, Orc empires haven't been able to take root, you know, on Imperium Nihilus, then what's the Indominus Crusade for? I just, you know, there are 12 days of darkness, or whatever they called it, and when the Astronomicon went out. And then, okay, that is consequential. Bad things are going to happen, for sure. But I think what makes Indomitus Crusade more worthwhile is actually having the paradigm I described earlier, where Chaos has rule or dominion over Imperium Nihilus. Like that's their reward. And yeah, it creates narrative problems, right? Because I like Ball is on over on Imperium Nihilus and maybe even Nocturne. I can't remember. But yeah, various factions are on the other side. And then yeah, you have that's the writer's job. You got to work with it. Either they become fleet based because you know the setting has advanced and things are worse, or they that's not even that bad. A Space Marine chapter loses their home world. Look, if Cadia gets blown up, anything's on the table. Why can't Ball fall to Tyranids and Chaos Demons and or Corn Demons, and then Blood Angels are now a fleet-based chapter, and that's just part of their lore advancement? Is that so bad? I think that's probably par for the course in a grimdark setting, right? No more Cadians, says Ransois. No, Cadians are everywhere. In fact, you can still go back to Cadia. I think that's actually a Warhammer Plus animation at the moment. Super cool. It's welcome to 40k 10th edition. Everything's happening and nothing happens. Aren't you excited? I actually might need a better brush to paint a lady's face properly. It's too difficult. Too difficult with this size brush. Oh, what is this? This goop? Paint goop? I think that Iron Halo is starting to come together. I think it's looking pretty good. Just a crude picking of the eye holes here. It's not great, but it's adequate. Adequate for this stage of development, I think. Power says, didn't you read? Cadians are still breeding, therefore they will never disappear and make a Cadia 2.0 at some point. Yep. That is the case. I don't know. I'm compelled by the timeline where Cadia falls, the Great Rift happens, and Cadians are obliterated. They were all there at the defense of Cadia, right? It was, you know, the fall of those. The opening of a Great Rift should have been like. I mean, it is a setting-defining event, and like the Siege of Terra, right? So you'd think, can you contrive them all there in one place? I think so. right? Anyways, I'm compelled by this timeline where they're all present. They all make their last stand, forever immortalized as heroes. You know, the regiment, other regiments look back upon as you know, their predecessors, right? The golden example, right? And then Krieg become the poster boy regiment. And of course, you can still use your Cadian army as, you know, Imperial Guard infantry squads. Nothing wrong with that, right? I'm a big fan of using models, even characters. If characters have been killed off, I mean, you're playing a tabletop game. Who's to say when this takes place, or if you're doing a little homebrew or Elseworlds, what if? Like, it's all fine for the tabletop game, but from a setting and lore management point of view, I'd like the Great Rift to have vast consequences, narratively. Like I said, tabletop, still use your models. You're not going to punish that. That's counter hobby, counter consumer. You don't do that. Yeah, I do like Krieg as the poster boy regiment for the Guard. I just think they're stronger as a grimdark exemplar of the setting. I think Krieg are the right choice if I had to pick one. You know, not throwing shade, but I think it's a fairly objective read of how the design of those two factions come across. Okay, let's let's stop painting this Iron Halo. I'm gonna paint a little bit of gold. I'm gonna mix Vallejo Air Metal with Thalax Gold. I don't think we need much. Just to create a pale gold. Then we'll put null and oil over all of those metal parts, and it should look pretty good. Should look pretty good, and also be in a good spot for some layers. Not in all areas, but there are some forward-facing panels that could use with some gradients, I think. Oh, well, this guy has gold fingertips now. Yeah, like this bit of trim here. That could use with a bright spot. Yeah, you make Acadia 2.0, I just... Like, what's the point, right? You're gonna bring Sanguinius back too? Like, what's the point? That's where I find myself. It becomes cheap. It becomes more... It's more of what I said earlier. Everything's happening, but nothing happens. Welcome back, Madman. Hello. We'll probably go for another 40 minutes or so of hobbying, I think. And I think we're going to start edge highlighting. I don't know if I'll live to regret it, but we'll see. Let's use I think our highlighting color is probably going to be a flesh tone, honestly. If it's too bold, you can always do a little sweep with a contrast over top, which I think should dial it back down. How's it going, you're asking? Well, pretty good. Look, I got this Iron Halo, I think, looking certainly nice enough, right? I think these 4 avatars are rough, but certainly battle ready. All right, looks like he has the blessings and attention of the 4 Chaos Gods. Oh, I can't read that last message. That's crazy. Absolutely crazy. Well, we'll see if this is a bit too much. Actually, I don't think that's a bad color at all. We kind of got a Dark Angels-esque level of contrast between our edge highlight color and the armor, which I am quite fond of. Maybe I should do the glowing elements only on one feature first, as a proof of concept, just for my own sanity. Then I can evaluate if it's too strong. Like the sheer density of these runes, right? They're all... I mean, usually I have 1 or 2 runes per leg on a Chaos Space Marine. Now, this guy is bigger, and he is the big dad, right? So maybe it's okay, but I can't help but feel a little bit of trepidation. Madman says, I don't know if my fun keyboard is working, but anyway, boop rock. I think your fun keyboard is working. Well, when I can read it anyways. That is a really cool mini. Ah, yes, I agree. It is very cool. Yeah, it is a... He will be my Word Bearer's Primarch. For a what-if battle or two. Maybe 3. I should be able to get 3 battles in with this guy. A little bit of wish fulfillment. I'll take what I can get, because GW doesn't seem to care about the Word Bearers at all. So, you know, you gotta work with what you got. You gotta make your own fun. And these beige pigments are a bit chalky. As they tend to be honest. In all fairness. Let's try and get a bit more of a precise brush to do some lining here. This side, you can't really see much. Oh, but those chains are probably ready for some gnome oil. That's what's up. Okay, a little bit of cleanup. Okay, we're gonna end this stream with a bit of an experiment. And some gnome oil on those chins. So we have some gnome oil here. And the experiment is gonna involve some glowing elements. So I'm gonna grab the flow improver. We're going to put some white ink into the glyphs on his thigh plate here. Let that dry, and then we're going to glaze it up with a bit of Tesseract glow. No, not Tesseract glow. What's the other one? Hexwraith Flame. And then I'll know if this is a terrible idea or not. The all-over glow, because that's a fairly high amount of density, so it should reveal if it's a good idea or bad idea. Okay, I'll start with the glowing elements first. Not glowing elements, sorry. Let's start with the null and oil over those sensor orbs and chains. Alright, so going a bit heavy here, but I'm going to spread it around. So it shouldn't be too much of an issue. Well, it doesn't look like there's any areas of significant pooling, which is good. All right, and then we'll just shake this up. So I shouldn't need too much of this because, again, only doing one thigh plate. So that might be more than I need already. And a bit of flow improver. Should be good. And then, oh, here we go. See if we end up ruining our work, killing our babies. Let's see. So I'm trying to drop the ink right in those glyphs, but I'm pretty sure I can use my finger and wipe away any excess if there's overspill. Because with the flow improver, it's pretty forgiving, and if there's a bit of white smearing on the armor, I find it's not too big of an issue because the Hexwraith kind of just creates almost like a bounce light or an OSL with that overspill. So in that sense, it's a fairly forgiving approach. Well, the glyphs seem to be taking the inkwell, which is great. Alright, that looks pretty cool so far, honestly. We'll see if the Hexwraith ruins it. Okay, that's a lot. That is a way too overloaded amount. Okay, let's see if I can move that around a little bit. Okay, not bad. Not bad. Like, if this goes really well, I could turn this into a little clip. That looks pretty cool actually already. I'm feeling optimistic. Do I continue? I mean, I do need to wait for that section to dry, so maybe I do. I guess if this turns into a clip, this would be the section where I cut to the washing stage. Uh-oh. It's a bit much. Oh, there are runes down here too. I feel like they're just small enough where I shouldn't ignore them, though. It's awkward. Those triangles on the helmet probably should not be glowing green. I think that's a safe bet. Now let's get this head out of the way. Man, they're so small. A little bit concerned with the readability of these ones. When the glaze goes over, will it be readable? Oh, geez, these are just overblown now. You have to pull from there. Well, I said I was only gonna do that thigh plate, but at this point, I feel like I don't want to waste the ink. So this is where we find ourselves. Filling in the lines. Well, you know, now I'm liking this white look so much, I'm kind of concerned that it's gonna look worse with the hex wraith. looks pretty cool, I'll say that. Oh, I kind of goofed that. Yeah, that's unfortunate. Well, we'll have to do a bit of cleanup, I guess. Actually, this brush is probably due for a rinse. Definitely taken some abuse. Okay, let's see if I can clean up that blemish. Got so many runes on this guy. Almost like he's really into words or something. And more on this side, but thankfully it's larger. Larger script is better script. Kind of wish they were all like this, to be honest, because the not the Galverback, the Morrigal Dreadnought is similar. this the back leg here. I don't know how I'm gonna get all the lettering. The angles are so awkward. Okay, you know what? That went better than I thought. I'll say that. That went better than I thought. I do think I'm coming up onto the home stretch here. Just the backpack remains. Oh boy, is that it for the runes? Please say yes. Okay, so I definitely am into overtime here, and I want to wrap this up fairly soon. Let's just test if this is dry. Yeah, these runes look dry. Okay, so we're gonna try it out. We're gonna try out good old reliable Generation 0 Hexwraith. But first, I don't want to waste this. Don't really want to waste this white ink. So what I'll do is just line this up here along the base of the fire here. I think that's a good use for it. Just to help it pop a bit more. Certainly doesn't hurt. I mean, that area needs a bit more development anyways, but that's for circling back to later. Probably in here as well. Actually, that's not going to work. That's fine. We'll leave it as is. Let's back that up a bit. Alright then. Old Hexwraith Flame. Let's... moment of truth here. I guess I'll leave this up on screen, make it real big so it's easier to find in editing if I choose to clip this. And let's give it a whirl. Well, it's reading as about the same hue, more or less as the same effect as when I paint over decals. Well, I think at this stage, I'm going to wrap this stream up here because I'm quite over time. And I'll probably evaluate how these glyphs are reading with the glaze over top. And maybe make that a point to continue from in a future stream, perhaps. I think it's good, but it could be the case where, you know, you look at something for so long and you just want it to look good, so we'll have to sleep on it and reevaluate at a later date. That's usually what I tend to do. You know, I'll put a bit of null oil in these skulls here. I think that makes sense. Alrighty, look, all the demons are in place, glyphs are done, and I think this Iron Halo's reading pretty well. Alright, if you made it to the end of the stream, you guys are the real hobby heroes. Thanks again to everyone who tuned in and shared in the hobby camaraderie, and as per usual, I'll catch you guys in